Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into some material from a transformation series called Luminara Mindset. We're focusing on something pretty critical in any kind of self-development journey. It's that shift. How do you stop trying to force change and actually start, well, cultivating it? And look, we're not after quick slogans here. The mission today is to pull out the essential mindset, the structure needed for growth that genuinely lasts, the kind that doesn't just fizzle out. And the sources use this one really powerful analogy throughout.
They do. And that analogy is the master gardener. It's a great way to think about it, actually. Because let's face it, most of us attack personal growth like it's a fight, right? We're trying to yank out weeds, shout affirmations. It's all very forceful, very effortful. But the master gardener, they get that you can't rush nature. Their real skill isn't in controlling the outcome, but in creating the conditions for growth. So this whole deep dive, really, it's about that shift, moving from demanding results to, well, patiently, intentionally, consistently cultivating. That switch is fundamental. That's where the real lasting growth starts.
And okay, let's unpack that, because the metaphor holds, doesn't it? You can't just toss a redwood seed onto, I don't know, cracked concrete and expect a giant tree. The sources are really clear, almost relentless, about needing to, as they put it, prepare the soil first. It's this foundational work that honestly often gets skipped.
Oh, absolutely. It's essential. They define it as creating a ground that's fertile, stable, and welcoming. And they break this prep work down into two main areas or landscapes. The first is the inner landscape.
Right.
And this is about learning to tell the difference between, well, two internal voices. They call them spirit and ego. Practically speaking, it means tuning into that quieter, wiser, more reflective voice, the spirit, and recognizing the louder, reactive, often critical or fear-based voice, the ego. The prep work is learning which one to listen to and how to harness that sort of calm intention that comes from the spirit voice.
So it's less about silencing the ego and more about recognizing it, knowing it's just one signal, not the whole operating system. And they tie this inner stability to the physical too, don't they? Like anchoring it in the body, the breath, bringing you right into the present moment.
Exactly that. Being present is like the ultimate soil conditioner. Which brings us neatly to the second area, outer temple care. This is the practical physical side of tending the garden. They're quite insistent that if you neglect your body, the temple and soil just can't be fertile.
And they list specifics: hydration, good food, moving your body, daily inputs, basically. But the thing that really jumped out at me was this concept of sanctuary. It felt like more than just taking a 5-minute break.
It is. It's about intentional recharging, creating mental space. They pinpoint 3 specific types of sanctuary we need. One is nature. Another is the quiet you get from deliberately unplugging, no devices, no input, just quiet. And the third is carving out some dedicated, maybe even sacred time within your own personal space, your home. They argue that without these kinds of restoration, the soil just gets depleted, worn out.
It's interesting. These are all things we sort of know are good for us, but the sources frame them differently. Not just healthy habits, but actual prerequisites for doing any deeper internal work. They make it possible.
Spot on. They enable everything else.
So maybe for you listening, as you think about where to start cultivating, take a second. How's your soil? Are you getting those moments of sanctuary? Feeling anchored in the present? If the ground feels somewhat ready, then you can start adopting these 4 key mindsets of the Master Gardener. And let's dive into maybe the 2 hardest ones first: patience and compassion.
Patience, yes. Universally tough, isn't it? We live in this culture that just demands instant feedback, visible results now. The source material tackles this head on. It reminds us that when you plant a seed or start a new practice, a lot of the really crucial, powerful work is happening unseen, in the dark, beneath the surface, as they put it.
That's the bit we need to really sit with, I think, because we do practice consistently. Maybe we meditate or journal or set boundaries, but we don't always see those big, satisfying outward changes straight away. And that's the point where so many people just give up.
Exactly. The gardener doesn't frantically dig up the seed every few hours to see if it's sprouting. There's a trust there. Trust in the seed's own intelligence, trust in the process. And the application for us is critical. You have to trust that even when external results aren't obvious, the roots of new awareness, new ways of being are actually deepening. You're building that foundation under the surface. And that has to happen before you get the lasting bloom. It shifts your focus from the visible prize to the invisible essential process.
Yeah, that shift from outcome to process, that feels key for sustaining patience, which leads nicely into Compassion, the second principle. This one's about how we handle, well, the screw-ups, the setbacks. The sources use this great image. A wilting plant. A master gardener doesn't loom over it, shouting, "Why are you failing? Pull yourself together." They don't judge it as, inherently bad or weak.
No, exactly. They get curious. They approach it with care. They ask, okay, what does this plant need right now?
Mm-hmm.
Does it need more water? Maybe less direct sun? Better soil nutrients? The response is about providing care, not delivering criticism.
That's such a radical shift for how we usually talk to ourselves, isn't it?
Absolutely. So when that inner critic starts yelling maybe you snapped at someone or fell back into an old habit you thought you'd kicked, that's your wilting plant moment. It's not proof of failure. It's a signal that something is needed.
So what's the tool? What do the sources say to do in that moment instead of beating yourself up?
You interrupt the judgment right away. Instead of spiraling down that negative path, you pause. And you ask this really gentle but powerful question. What does this struggling part of me need right now? Maybe it needs rest. Maybe it needs you to reinstate a boundary you let slip. Maybe it just needs a bit of self-forgiveness. It turns that moment of failure into a diagnostic moment. What care is required here?
It's like firing the judge and hiring a doctor instead. I like
Absolutely.
that. Okay, powerful stuff. Let's move to the last two principles. These feel like they combine action with a kind of faith. Principle 3 is consistency. This is where the action comes in, but maybe not in the way we expect. It sort of busts the myth of the grand gesture, the heroic effort.
Right. We often think change needs this massive life-altering push.
Yeah.
But a garden doesn't work like that. It thrives on small, reliable, incremental inputs. You don't dump a tanker truck of water on it once a year and hope for the best. You give a little water, a little sunlight, consistently, every day or regularly. That's nature's rhythm. And they make this super practical for personal growth.
Yeah.
They offer this example that really landed with me. A 5-minute breath meditation done daily is far more transformative than a 1-hour meditation done once and then forgotten.
Wow. Okay.
That consistent 5 minutes, day after day, that's what starts to build and reinforce the new neural pathways you need for change that actually sticks. It's like compound interest for your well-being.
So it's that gentle, consistent showing up. It validates the process, not just the big performance. And doing that, practicing that consistency, it seems like that builds the foundation for the final principle, which is trust. This one feels a bit more abstract, maybe, but potentially the most powerful.
It might be. Trust is what gets the gardener through the winter, right? When nothing appears to be happening. They have this deep, abiding trust in forces they can't directly control. The life force in the seed itself, the reliability of the sun coming back, the cycles of rain and seasons. They trust the sort of natural, intelligent unfolding of life.
Yeah.
So for us, the application is learning to cultivate that same kind of trust in our own innate capacity to heal and grow. The sources are very clear on this. You are not fundamentally broken. You possess this inner wisdom, that quiet spirit voice we talked about that's always gently guiding you towards wholeness, towards balance.
So if our job is basically to create the right conditions, prepare the soil, show up consistently with water and light, then the trust part is letting go of trying to micromanage the outcome.
That's it exactly. And it's not a blind hope.
Yeah.
It's trust based on the conditions you've actively, purposefully created. You've done the groundwork. You've tended the soil. You've been consistent. Now you release the anxiety about how it will grow or when exactly the bloom will happen. That's the master gardener's final act, in a way. Trusting that the life force, the spirit, knows how to bloom far better than the ego knows how to force it.
Okay, so we've covered the whole blueprint then. Prepare the soil inner voices, outer temple care. And then bring in the gardener's mindset. Patience, compassion, consistency, and finally, trust. That's the foundation.
That's the foundation. And this whole framework, it's specifically designed to get you ready for what comes next on the journey. The sources suggest that once this foundation is stable, the soil is fertile enough for the next phase, which is about going deeper into the heart space, really cultivating profound self-love, healing those older, deeper emotional wounds. You need to be a master gardener first before you can really become a master healer of your own life.
Right. Which brings us to making this real for you, listening right now. How do you take this from information to application? The sources offer 2 reflection questions, specifically for this week, focused on that foundational soil prep.
Okay, question 1 is about finding your anchor. Of all those foundational practices we discussed, anchoring in your body, finding sanctuary in nature or quiet, tending your physical needs, which one feels the most supportive and life-giving for you right now in this moment?
And question 2 is about leaning into the challenge with honesty. Which foundational practice feels the most difficult right now? Which one are you maybe neglecting or finding resistance around? So, the gentle intention, the Master Gardener way for this week, could be this. First, lean into that supportive practice. Use it for comfort, for stability. Let it nourish you. And then bring that extra dose of compassion and patience, those two principles we just explored, to the practice that feels challenging. Give that wilting spot in your routine exactly what the gardener would give the plant.
Hmm.
Gentle curiosity, understanding, and maybe a small adjustment in conditions, not judgment.
Yes. Go cultivate those conditions. And maybe just hold this final thought. If real lasting change truly hinges on just small, consistent, intentional acts each day, what single, maybe even just 5-minute investment we make today to honor that gardener within you?
Go cultivate. We'll see you for the next deep dive.